All right, if you saw my last video, you'll know that we are moving on to the next step of this, which is getting our electronics mounted. So now we're gonna finally be getting into our electronics with our servo mount plate being one of the first things we touch. And then our servo here. This is the Savix SV1270TG. You can see right there, titanium gear servo. This one currently is on a main for, I believe, $117. This one has 624 ounces per inch of torque, which is an insane number. If you want that in pounds per inch, I'll put it right here. So it's pretty good, don't you know? It's you do need to have a servo screw. I did have a 3x8 or 3x10 laying around. I don't remember which one this is. I put that in there because the screw that they come with is just a super cheap, like Phillips head. That's where they cut the corners. Everything else about Savix is awesome. They even come with some really nice servo mounting screws, which we're not going to be using on here, but it's nice to know that they come with them. You know, those are the things that I think are a nice touch. We're actually going to be using the, actually we might use them. I might pull them back out and use them. Let me show you those. All right, so here's the screws that it comes with. These are super nice servo mount screws. So if you have one where it says use a 3mm screw with the washer, you can just use this big guy instead. Let me see if I can get focus. There we go. See that? Look how nice that is. So we're probably going to end up using these for our servo just because they're such a nice screw. And then you don't have to worry about a washer, bending, folding, flexing, whatever the case may be. So we're just going to set these to the side. Now, one thing you will probably notice or have already noticed, if you watched the last video, you saw the picture at the very end that said, next week, we're getting into this. I have a full spread here. I've got my soldering station, soldering jig, I've got bullets, I've got my Hobby Wing 160 amp XR8 Pro G3, the XE Run 4268 SD. This is the 2200 kV flavor, and I've got a 17 tooth Mod 1 5mm bore pinion. I am using my Tekno wire in this one. It comes with 11 gauge wire. This is 12 gauge. The difference is this wire is only rated for 200 degree. The Tekno wire is a TPPT wire that's rated for 250 degrees. So this is actually a better wire, even though it's a smaller gauge. It can carry more current than this larger gauge wire. So we're gonna use the Tekno Flex wire, 12 gauge, hot pink. Plus it matches our paint scheme, which if you saw the end of the last video, you notice that I did finally get that body that I posted on Facebook cut out. And there is the comic book theme. And if you see these tires right behind me here, I've got a little bit of marking on the bag trying to figure out what I want to do with those to make it also have the comic book theme. So here's the factory body that it comes with. I'm going to probably do I am going to do the light finger body with the same and the short course body up here. So I'm actually going to do a video on the short course body. But here's that. That's what it looks like mounted. It turned out really good. And sometimes when you're at the track, you just need to remember, why so serious? Because these are, after all, toy cars. Yeah, sure, you might get to the point where you're winning and making bank and getting free stuff and getting sponsorships and getting cheap stuff and then free stuff as you get better. But it's good to know that you can have fun. It doesn't have to be so serious. Just remember to smile. We're gonna take this off. We're gonna get into our chassis here and we're gonna start getting this thing ready to go because, I'm ready to see the powers because I took all the information for this motor, put it into a calculator with the resistance, internal resistance, the winding type, and all that I was able to find, and then use the old Google Translate from the original language to English so that I could put it into a calculator. This comes out at roughly around 5 horse if the calculator that I used is accurate with all of its calculated trigonometry things I took 1 year of algebra and barely passed. I'm just not good with the maths. Somehow I can do this, but don't ask me to do the things. I make it go zoom zoom, and it goes really fast zoom zoom to the tune of 60, 65 miles an hour front stretch, because that's what our buggies actually do. If anybody tells you that the rate scale buggy on 4S does 100, they're either lying to you or they have a 1-to-1 pinion gear on it, and it does it for half a second before it gets so hot that every motor wire explodes in two. Your nitro car doesn't do 80 either, unless it's a 2-speed. Your nitro car only does about 45 miles an hour, but you can run it for an hour because your fuel stops. Now, if you're running a 721 Scudera or Super Veloce from Reds, you might hit 60. Just like with this, you might hit 70, but you're gonna be running it so hot that everything's gonna be, you're gonna be getting the sizzles from your motor or from your engine. You don't wanna be doing that now. Let's get back into this. This is electric. We're just not talking about nitros. Electric, servo, only steering, no throttle servo. Electric, we can use an antenna-less receiver like this Futaba R204 GFE, which we're gonna be installing today. And our 1-Up Racing battery plugs, these are the tall ones that have the set screw that helps hold it onto the top of here, so it keeps it from falling off, and they're tall enough that you can get a hold of them. Little things that if you're starting this video, get those before you get working. This is probably the number one thing I would say just because it can hold the heat. These motors pull some juice. Like I said, this is 160 amps continuous. We recommend using a servo with at least 300 ounces per inch of torque. 624 should do. Let's get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and get you tilted down and we're gonna get to work. Make sure you got your manual handy and dandy. And yeah, it looks like most of the screws on here are 2.5. There's a few 2s, but mostly 2.5. I'm excited. We're getting to the nitty gritty. All right, so first thing on our ESC radio tray install is our servo mount, which is also going to be our speed controller mount, as you can see here. So you are going to need double-sided servo tape, such as this. This is a servo gel. This is my favorite to use. It is gel-like that, and they're very nice. If you're using a Tekno speed controller like you see in the manual here, the RX8 Gen 2 or Gen 3, whichever one you got. If you bought a Gen 2 off of eBay, cool. If you bought a Gen 3, cool. Tekno's great. One thing I will say about Tekno is they do not have enough internal distance between the plates. So if you cap a jump coming down from up high, you're going to short out your speed controller. So to alleviate that, order the Kyosho servo gel tape like this that is either 6 or 8 millimeters thick. I don't remember which it is. I think it's 6. Put that underneath your speed controller and that will be your shock absorption for those rough landings. Transponder I'm not going to put in right now because it's still in my SC mod. We're going to put that in at a later date because I'm going to be running the SC mod soon. So that's that. Our receiver is going to go in here. You're going to need this on the bottom of the receiver as well. I've already got a receiver strip cut off here. At least I thought I did. Apparently I did not. So some people say, don't cut it on the roll. I do it anyway. That's gonna go right on the bottom of our receiver, just to hold it in. And don't peel that off until you're ready to stick it in there. But at least it's ready. It's ready to go now. You can do the same with this. See that? Zip. Since we got it out, let's go ahead and grab our speed controller. Stick a strip right there. This one's got holes in the bottom. I wonder what those are for. It's not for mounting on this, that's for sure. Not for sure where that's for mounting for, but it's not for this. We're gonna go ahead and do the other spot as well. Gonna shove those right up against each other there. I like my things to not move around, you know what I'm saying? Not move around. Don't like them jumping. Now we do have our little guy here, which I got a thin strip already cut right here. So I'm just gonna make sure it's cut through. This will go on, I don't know why I just put that up. On here. Not sure where we're gonna put that yet, but we'll figure it out. I might need this side, I might not, I might just need the bottom. But our button's gonna go somewhere. Now you can't get rid of these buttons, because see, they're 4-wire. You got a set button on there. They don't put the set button on here. That's what I like about Associates. They have the set button on here with the Reedy products. Well, usually it's like somewhere here. I do like that this has a little cap over your spot to put your programmer. That's really nice to see. And these giant capacitors. Oh, and not only that, it comes with 4 additional capacitors. If you're running a high power pole receiver, you're gonna need this for the extra juices so it doesn't short out on you. This is a nice glitch buster. If you're doing these, you're gonna need, it's because you're running probably an older FlySky or Spectrum radio. Because it just helps save so that when the receiver pulls power, your ESC still has a backup power supply. I need to cap that before I zip my own skin. Might need more, might not. We'll see as we go. All right, so first things first, make sure the orientation of this is correct, because we need to make sure that the orientation of our actual gear is correct. Also, if you don't like things randomly falling off and they start getting dirt, make sure that you get all your films off. There's a film underneath those little metal tags. Overneath? Over top, not overneath. There's no such thing as an overneath. Orientation like so. Put your wire through. This is where you're gonna need to finagle a little bit. So you need to get that wire wiggled through right there. And then you're gonna need to kind of just give a little, and then a good push. Get that down. And then pop the little nipples that stick up over here down on there. This side will draw in as we go, okay? So this is where you can see here they want you to use these 4 socket head screws with these washers, like that. I am going to hopefully use these ones that came with my Servo, just because I like that they're one piece. I just have to make sure that they will fit. Sometimes these don't fit. I think we're good on this one. Set these fellas aside, and they'll go in the parts box. Servo mounted. Now, one thing that is interesting on this, normally you would see me go ahead and put my servo arm on, but on this one, the servo arm actually sets at an angle, plus the servo arm itself is angled. So I'm not gonna do that until I can have power going to this, because I'm gonna be able to actually set this to dead center, and then put that arm on to try to get it lined up to the best possible spot. Otherwise, it's gonna be all sorts of funky. Because normally I'd put it top dead center, because on 10 scale cars, you just want top dead center, and you want to go the equal amount each direction, and you're good. On this one, it's a little different. I'll show you why here in just a few minutes. The next thing we're gonna need is our receiver box, which is here. If you're running an antenna receiver, you're going to need your antenna and a grub screw as well at this moment, which it comes with the grub screw, this guy right here. And they give you full length antenna tube. I mean, this is like for like FM even. It's the big wobble bob. I mean, it's not even getting camera unless I ling it over. You know, maybe you wanna make an arch with it. Go to St. Louis, maybe? Sure. We're not gonna use this. We don't need it. Our antenna is inside. So at this point, they want you to put it like this. They want you to put your doodad in there like that. Just like that. So that's what we're gonna do. We're going to peel our backing off carefully. And then drop this down in here. And then just good. Then we need TKR 1325, 2 for this, and then 4 for this. And those are our 3x14s that we have 6 of, and they're countersocks. So you got 2 for the front, 4 for the back, you know, and these are 2mm. So it worked out that I put the 2 on here. So then we're gonna need, this thing's getting heavy, you know. This is a heavy kit. Need our receiver box, which you're gonna put back here in this hole, it looks like. Nope, sorry. This hole and this hole. Just like that. She fits pretty snug back there now. I'm gonna set it on its side. You're gonna use your chin again, because sometimes you just need to, you know, use an extra hand, and the chin works as an extra hand. Now, I just magged my mic to the spring. So that's fine. So use your head like so. Sometimes you gotta think better and use your head. And then line up that. Maybe give a big squint in case you miss. You don't want to jam your eye. Then you're gonna keep using your head. They say using your head makes you smart. So I don't know how this makes you smart, but sure. Hope that you get it. I guess I did. I couldn't see it, so I was just guessing. Just using my fuel waders, you know? Alright, there's that. So we're gonna keep using our head, because the more you use your head, the smarter you get. So we're gonna keep using our head. And back in the old days, they wanted you to take this and tuck it under, and then come out this side so it can run down a channel. Which I'm gonna say they're gonna do again. So I'm just gonna do that. So we're just gonna tuck underneath like so. See that there? Tuck underneath. And we're gonna just keep it over like that. We're gonna get our two. I'm gonna do these back ones first because these are kind of a pain in the butt. You just eyeball it on that side, then eyeball it on this side. Okay, just get them started now. Once we get them started, we can quit using our head. Maybe. That's it. Again, couldn't see it. The way the tray drops down, couldn't see it. That was a guess. Now you can do this, you know, where you flip it the whole way over and you can see your holes, but I'm trying so that you can see. So I'm using my head a little bit more than maybe I really need to, but I want to make sure it's upright so you can see what's going on. And the reason you don't want to tighten them is because this is plastic and it can sometimes spread apart and you never know when it's going to actually be right or not. So then you just squish it down to make sure that it's all the way flush. We're going to go across. Just like torquing tires down crisscross. Or how I sit. And then we've got these two little guys which are going to go into the chassis. Those are, what are these? 1401, and we're going to use thread lock on those, so we're going to do them by hand. 2mm wrench, and they said, what did I say, 1401? Yeah, so those are 3x6 button heads. That's these little bitty dudes right here. It's the only 3x6 button heads we have. These are probably the smallest screws on this thing that are 3mm, to be honest. Just give it a little tappy down so you don't get that air bubble in there like I just did. You don't want to on your car. I'm going to thread lock my bit, apparently. Where'd my screw go? Here it is. Never put it on. There we go. We don't even have any excess sticking out, so that's nice. Do those go all the way through the chassis? They do, and there's none dripping out the bottom. Fantastic! Go ahead and cap our thread lock for now. All right, next is, move that over so we can see. Next is we're gonna put the cap on the receiver box with 1402, which is 3x8 button heads. 4 of those. Right? 3. Sorry, 3. And then 3 more for the transponder mount. Which, like I said, we don't have the transponder yet, but we're going to go ahead and put our screws in there as if it was there. And then it wants us to go ahead and mount the ESC. I think I'm going to wait just because I got these dangling wires. It's not like some of the other ones where these wires aren't there, just dangling. Usually you only have, you know, this one to worry about. And if you have a Tekin, first thing you do is cut off your power wire because that's the first thing that breaks on a Tekin is the power wire. So you just snip and solder them together. And then if you have a Reedy, it's all in one box. And so there's a button and there's nothing coming off with this is what I'm saying. Now, I don't know why I would put that on there just yet, considering I still have to plug things in. Ooh, that's a tight fit now. Just remember, 1 to turn, 2 to burn. Might have to get an extension for this guy. Not sure. We'll find out. Are you gonna be able to tuck in there? You know, that's a little more snug than I prefer. We're gonna move this under because there's another line channel here. So I'm gonna move that under. Just need enough room to get that wire under and into this other gap. Make sure she's not pinched on the back side, which she's not. So no pinch on the back. We've got a little bit more slack up here. I feel a lot better about that. That's more of kind of where I want it to be at. Yeah, much better. Like I said, I think I'm gonna wait on putting this on here because I'm not 100% sure how I want to set it in here. Probably do something like that. Probably tuck this in and around like that. Let's get the motor in first and then set that in. Just so I'm comfortable with where it's going. I'll go ahead and put the 3 screws on top of this, but I'm not gonna wait on this until we get our speed controller actually mounted. Sometimes the order of things in the book is okay and sometimes it's not. And in this case, I just don't want to. I want to make sure that I want to mount things in the way that I you know what I'm saying. So we'll come back to putting the ESC in there and putting the cap on. We've also got our channel here that the wires run down. So that's really nice. You see that's actually gonna set, you can't see that, it's too far over. But it's gonna sit on the side and the wires can run down here. So we're gonna put our battery brace on, battery strap. So you're gonna just hit, Get that off there like that. You're going to take it all the way out to full length, and we're going to thread through. Make sure the screws are on the bottom. Just like so. And, you know, maybe check your orientations. Because if you do what I just did, I'll show you what I just did. You're gonna put this on, you're gonna go like that, and you're gonna go, well, I can't strap that. Yeah. So, yeah. There's no note saying here, but what I need to say is make sure that when you put this in, the word Tekno, make sure your screws are facing down, the word Tekno is facing up, and then feed it through with the word Tekno facing the U shape. And then come up through the bottom of this side, because then when you come back through this way and back around, there's your battery strap. See? We'll go ahead and get this on, and then we'll figure it out from there. And these are 1344, so these are 4x12 countersunks. And before I grab the car over, almost forgot, these are 2.5 millimeters, so we're gonna need our 2.5 millimeter zippy zip. So if you're running a 4-cell shorty, it looks like you can, if they make a 4-cell shorty, I think they do. I don't know. Maybe it's shorter than, which holes am I supposed to use now? Full front, full rear. Okay, that's what I thought. Would you just stay? Now this one, you're just gonna have to trust me on. You line up the hole and then start them and then zick them down. I missed. I didn't line up the hole right. I saw a dark shadow and I thought it was the hole, and it was not. It was just a shadow of an empty space. And then the front, you're gonna do the same. This one you do need to actually kind of see. This is when, you know, lights on the gun are helpful, on the screw gun are helpful. My Atlanta. Apparently I had that so tight that I was not even able to move the other side to get her lined up. Give it all the ugga-duggas. That's what I'm saying, you know. Now at this time, you can go ahead and pull that strap out the rest of the way. Pull out your battery, which we're using the Jins Ace Redline. Dealio here, which I need to get a 4-cell charge lead for this. I actually completely forgot about that. Now, if you want to know a fun little thing that I do, is I take the foam out of here and just get rid of it. These make nice parts bins for 8-scale arms and things of the nature. So just hang on to these. Just like your servo boxes make nice hardware containers for 10 scales. Your shorty boxes are good for 10 scale arms, and the little ones are good for the caster blocks and things. So if you don't have the containers that are the bigger ones for things, you just have your hardware container. These make really nice storage units. Set these aside for now. Hang on to them. You know, we might have to make a charge lead, is what I'm saying. Because this will plug in to the front of here, and will plug into a balance board that I have. I just don't have an extension for that. Or you can buy 4S charge leads that go from your charger into there and already have them. But this is a new battery, so I already know it's storage charge. So we're just gonna, which side is the ESC on this side? That's right. So we're just gonna set her in there like that. See how that, yep. So when you wanna bring it over, bring it on over. There we go. And she's getting some weight to her now. And then set these aside, because you will need these later. What am I doing? What's next? Chassis rails, which these screws go in the top. That's fun. 1402, it's 3x8s. These guys, lots of them. Got a whole row of them. These are 2 millimeter. This is also the pieces that are going to be getting replaced when the Yeti RC stuff comes in. Those are going to be coming very soon. By the time you see this video, I'll already have them. And it's going to be exciting. That's when I can run the wide bodies once we get rid of these and put on the wider ones. I've heard they're pretty great. So I'm excited to run those. So we're going to bring this back over here. Move this. So we have, 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are going to get thread lock because they're going into the aluminum. So we're going to use our hand driver And then we have 2 of them that are going to go into these guys here, which hold down our wires. We have 4 on the other side that are going to get thread lock as well. That's these guys. You're going to make sure your orientation is correct. You should see the fold here. That curve goes to the front. You're going to just set these guys up on here. And this one, I'm going to do the middle one first, just because it wants to kick around so much. Right, because I got that wire chilling out under here. Let's move that out of the way first. There we go. So much easier when you get the stuff out of the way that's not supposed to be there. There we go. Now, one thing I will say when it comes to like adjustments and changing out fluids and things, whenever I went to big races, like for instance, Alabama Manufacturer Shootout, I would leave my settings the way they were, and I would go get 3 or 4 practice sessions in with however it was set before I went out again. And the reason being is different dirt requires different driving style. So you need to see what that dirt wants you to do before you find out what that dirt wants your car to do. So once you figure out what your driving style needs to be on that dirt, then start making your adjustments, and you'll really be able to speed up your race game at that point. Don't just jump out there and start making a bunch of adjustments, because like let's say the place that you're used to running on is like what I'm used to running on back home in Illinois, where I'm originally from, which was blue clay. Well, blue clay is incredibly tacky. And then you go somewhere like AMS, at the Alabama Manufacturer Shootout, that's 50% red clay and sand. And then it's highly packed to where it literally looks like this when you get there. It's just like this stuff. But it's almost like concrete, is what it feels like. And you have to adjust your driving style for that, because you can't just, grip it and rip it, because there's very little traction. And so you have to learn how to drive on it first, in throttle and steering control, then make the adjustments to your car, and then your car will settle in really nicely, and you'll be able to get faster and faster. So now that we've got those in, now you can see that this is going to nicely tuck down this channel over here, like so. And now that we have all this in, I'm good with going ahead and putting in my speed controller now. Well, you know what? The motor's the next step. Let's just do that first. What is our motor positioning here? 1346. We've got 2 4x15 countersunks. That's these guys, and we're going to put these washers on them. I got coffee rings on my desk. I got to clean that up. And then number 9011 for 42 millimeter off-road use, for 36 millimeter all condition, and 42 millimeter. Oh, it even tells you here, small, large track. Small track, 1900 kV, 15 to 16 tooth for a 50 to 100 foot straight, 100 to 150 foot straight, 16, 17 tooth, 150 to 200 foot straight, 117 or 18 tooth. For 2200 kV, 16, 17 tooth for 150 to 200 foot straight, which the tracks that I'll be running at are mostly about that size. So I can always go down. Now I have ran as much as a 19 tooth on a 1900 kV on a bigger track. What size is this? I forgot. Is this 36 millimeter? It looks like 36 millimeter. I don't think it's 42. What size are ya? Cool. Hobby wings are easy. They're all 42 millimeter. So I guess we're just gonna use the top hole here. And that's these 2 screws here to mount our motor. And do they say thread lock these? Some people say thread lock them, some people don't. They are not saying to thread lock our motor screws. Some people do, some people don't. I personally don't really like putting thread lock on motor screws, because then your thread lock can get in your motor. It's just not something that I'm fond of. And you gotta make sure you're in the right hole for how it's gonna set. Oop, missed the hole, I'm in between the fins. If you so choose to use thread lock on these screws, use a very, very minimal amount. Very minimal. Alright, so there's that. Why are you so tight? There we go. This was in the way. Didn't realize that ear was going to be such a pain to get over there. And this is just pert near almost too big for this. Maybe I can get away with running it the way I was hoping, which is like this. I think I am going to be able to do that. I don't like how that's pinched right up against that chassis piece right there. I don't really want to cut that out either, because, things. But I think we're going to be okay. We're going to go ahead and get our X-Acto. If you're having problems getting the bottom, You can use your X-Acto to peel it up too. It can do a better job of getting in between the plastic and the sticky silicone. Alright. What's fun is I'm going to have to solder this while it's sitting in here because, well, I just stuck it down. Oh well. Probably should have soldered my wires on first. It's fine. The one that's going to be tricky is that one because it's up against plastic. Squish this dude down in here. Now look at that. The wires are nicely in place. I still don't like how that one's pinched right there, but you know, it's apparently what we can do with what we have. Maybe I can finagle it over just a touch. Probably not. All right, then we're going to put our caps on, which are these dudes here, which are 2mm. If you're wondering how it looks so clean in the pictures, I don't know if you've ever noticed this about pictures on RC sites. The cars, the kits, all of them always look incredibly clean. There's a reason for that. And that reason is because there's no wires on anything. Every wire is taken off. They don't even have receiver wires going down these channels to the side. They even snip those off inside of the casing, put the casing back together, and then stick them on there. You know, for all I know, these companies send them blank motors and blank casings that are just look like it's complete. And then brass side always faces the top. If you have wires like this that don't tell you which side's negative, just remember the brass open part of the tab always faces the top. All right, so now, since we don't have a transponder, we can go ahead and put this on. That's not gonna do nothing. What are these two holes back here for? That's for your antenna and the set screw. You don't need those if you're not running them. That's ready for a transponder in a little while. We're ready to solder these on. First thing we need to do is slide our motor out all the way here. So there's our Robinson gear, our set screw, 2mm thread lock. Always, and I mean always, thread lock your set screw. And then there's a channel that faces the outside here. That's for you to get your wrench in, because you need to put it so where the nipple side faces the motor and push it in quite a bit, and then tighten it down on the flat spot of your motor shaft, and then snug it in nice and good. You don't want that thing backing off. These things use a lot of power, and they can back parts off just from the amount of power that's on them. Now that we're back, we're gonna go ahead and jump in here and do bag O, which bag O is our steering block, or I'm sorry, our steering link. Go ahead and get those parts lined up. One thing that I nearly forgot to do before I move on to bag O is our motor set screws. These are a 2.5 driver. So you need your 2.5 and thread lock. These you do get thread lock on. Slide that right down in the hole and get it not all the way tight, just set it on there and then back it off half turn. Same with the screw down here. Just set it on there until it barely stops and back it off half a turn, because we need to set our mesh. So we're gonna go ahead and bring our gear all the way in. There we go. Oh, and I just noticed that that gear is not fully aligned. So if your gear is not fully touching, you need to loosen the set screw on your motor. Bring it in a little. Until she is fully touching. You don't want to have that gear slightly off. And then you're going to bring it in just like on our 10 scale cars until there's just a little, like that's too tight, there's no play at all. Bring it out just a hair. You hear that? That is the tap that you want to hear. That means that mesh is just right. It's not too loose, it's not too tight. Now make sure that's good and snug. Make sure the motor doesn't move. Check your mesh again. Perfect. And that is where we want that. So now we can move on to bag O, which is our steering link. So we're gonna set this aside while we build our link. We're gonna build our eyelets. Just like with the other eyelets, you're gonna use your shock pliers or regular pliers if you have them. Just hope you don't lose your balls. Pop them down in there. And there we go. So those are ready to go. Then we're gonna have our all thread, which this is a longer all thread, as you can see here. And there should be 1 millimeter in between. So an easy way to tell that, if you do not have a micrometer, an easy way to tell that is it's gonna be a little bit smaller than the end of your 1.5 millimeter bit. Or if you have ball stud washers, such as this, you can put a 1 millimeter ball stud washer in there so that you make sure you get the right gap. This is hilarious. You can tell that they decided to up this after they came out with the kit, because the manual says a plastic steering servo horn is provided for convenience. However, an aluminum steering servo horn is highly recommended. And they give you this nice heavy duty aluminum one. This isn't plastic. This is really heavy aluminum. This is like hardened aluminum. I find it funny that they say plastic is provided and then they give you this guy, which is very much not plastic and is very, very nice. I mean, this is easily a $15 servo horn by itself. I'm gonna go ahead and grab our 1.5 and just screw that in. You might use something to hang on to that with, so you can grab your 2 millimeter, should fit through the hole. There we go. Some 2 millimeters don't, because 2 millimeter is just the tip size, not the actual shank size. And probably, I'm guessing somewhere about there is all the way tight. And I'm gonna slide my 1 millimeter washer on here, just so I know of my 1 millimeter gap. And then I'm gonna put this one on. And thankfully, these, you don't have to worry about like left or right. It's turn it in with right, and then turn this one in on right as well. And then you can do the old handy helper here. And it looks like they want them both to face the same direction. So you snug it all the way up to that 1 millimeter. As you can see, that 1 millimeter is slightly narrower than our 1.5 millimeter bit. So that's where, if you don't have a 1 millimeter ball stud washer like that to put in there, you can just use the bit end of your 1.5 and then just snug it in just a little bit past that. So then we're going to use our countersunk screw. You can see it's countersunk on the bottom there, just like so. Looks like this is a 2 millimeter. And grab our 2 millimeter wrench. And then, let's see here, a washer. And then our steering link we just made, and our nut. Oh, nuts. There we go. And then grab your 5.5 wrench. Kind of hold those apart. All right, and snug it. All right, there we go. There's our actual link setup. Now we're going to do some finagling here. So I remember I said I wasn't going to do this, and then I said, well, I just decided I'm going to try it. You're gonna want to grab your car over here, and the way that they want this to go on, they want this to go in through, my goodness, that's a difficult situation to be in there. Now this to go in through the bottom here, if you can get it to go up through the bottom. All right, I think I've officially found the hardest part of this car to put together. Because you gotta get, you're trying to get this in this tight spot right here to go up and through. And it's a hex shape. And you're trying to get that hex shape to fit just right in there. Easier said than done, you know? Easier said than done. Looks like once it's pressed through, it should be fine. It's just a matter of getting it pressed through. Yeah. Wish that was earlier in the manual. And then on top of that is supposed to be your washer. And then this. And then your nut. Like so, right? But first, we need to see where center is. So since we know that we can put this on here, and we can do this, we know where center is. We're gonna follow this. How about that now? That's about even. So we're gonna put this back to what the middle would be, or at least pert near. We can always do some sub trimming after that. And then you want these to be, when this is straight, and these wheels are straight, which they're about there now, this is supposed to be at the same angle. That's pretty darn close. So we're gonna go there. You know, I actually don't like how that is. So I'm gonna put a 2mm washer in there, or ball stud. Actually, I'll put a 4mm one in. I think a 4mm is gonna put me right where I need to be. Because they say to put one washer in there, but that was probably with the plastic horn that it came with. This aluminum one sets you up just a touch higher. Now we're straight across. So I wanted that to be a level arm so that when we're turning, it's all level. All right, so now I'm gonna put my nut on the top here. There we go. I can tighten that down. There we go, perfect. And then our screw for our steering servo, you want to put some thread lock on that because it's going down into the servo horn. And if you don't put thread lock on it, it will back out and your servo horn will come off and you'll be like, where's my steering? All right, so that's done. Now we've got our steering servo on and we've got full throw to both sides very easily. So we can adjust from there using our sub trim and trim and our radio. I'm gonna be using the Futaba 3PV, or sorry, not 3PV, the 4PV, for 4PM. I'm using a Futaba 4, the 4, the one with the flat screen. Yeah, I think it's a 4PM PV blaster. All right, now we're on to bag P. Bag P is when we get to start making this look like a, buggy. We still have to do our soldering, but at least our building is almost to completion. Our actual building. Debating on what wing I wanted to use on this. I haven't seen one of the J Concepts RM2 vintage pinks. I don't think it's a bright enough pink for my scheme because I use fluorescent pink, but I wouldn't mind checking that out because if there is a fluorescent pink wing out there, that'd make a fella pretty darn happy. I know I can get some really cool anodized pink wing buttons from Sticky Kicks for 8 scale because they do have those. Uncertain as to what a wing button is. That's what these are. These are wing buttons. Let's chop those off. So we're gonna do our wing first. Use dimples as hole cutting guides. Most downforce, least downforce. So we're gonna leave it full because like I said, I'm considering using the J Concepts wing, which actually has gurney adjustment. So we're gonna put our wing on here like so. And then the wing buttons are a 3-piece design. So you're gonna have your big plastic piece, like so. I'll do it over here so you can see. Big plastic piece, and then this countersunk washer sets down inside here, and then your screw goes through the top of it like that, and that's what it goes in for this. These are called wing buttons. And you got to make sure your nut's in there. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Build our other wing button, just like that. And I totally forgot these nuts slide in here, so these nuts are gonna go upside down like so. And they're gonna be kind of a butt to get in. I'll be honest with you. I put in enough of these, I know they can be a bear. I don't really want to be pushing up my hand like that with a, let's use a nut driver. Here we go. There's one in. See here, there's a hole in the bottom side. And that nut has to go flush up there, and it goes in that hole. And they usually have to be kind of popped in, which is what I'm doing here. Ow. Because they got to be like rolled and then pressed into just the right spot. And the reason I switched to the nut driver is because I always slip and jam my hand with it, and even with the nut driver, I hit my finger hard enough to leave a dent. So imagine if you're using an actual driver and just right through your finger. Yep, been there, done that. No fun, no fun at all. And then I usually use my 1.5 to just kind of get in there and make sure that nut is lined up good. Okay. Then put your wing up top. Stick those in, and into those nuts you go. And you can feel when it grabs that nylock because it starts actually getting tight. I'll probably still get the Sharpie out, go over the wing and the wheels, and give them that same kind of design that I've got on the body with the cartoon look. So the next thing on our instruction menu is our Velcro. Place hook and loop pieces in mudguard indentations. Place hook and loop pieces in body indentations. The best way to do this is to do exactly what they say. Which side you put it to doesn't really matter. I tend to usually put the rough side on the body, so that as you're running your fingernails across it, it's the rough sides on your fingernails and not shredding your fingers. Just my own personal flavor preference. But I like that they give you this really heavy duty, extremely sticky hook and loop. You can use just the hook and loop if you want to. You don't have to put the body posts on. I use both because I have lost a body mid-race, and so anymore, I'm like, yeah, I'm just using both. The more things you have holding your body on, the better it is. Especially since that's where you get a significant amount of downforce that you don't realize. All right, so here's our body, and it has the same indentations in the same spots. The only thing you gotta hope here is that your paint adheres good enough that your Velcro doesn't come off with paint when you go to take your body off. There we go. And aside from putting our wheel nuts and our body posts on, that's it. You've completed your first 8-scale build. Let's go ahead and see it with the wheels on, and we'll get to soldering here in just a minute as well. I feel like that went pretty darn good. That was, I know, a lot more video than I usually do. I usually do it in like 2 or 3, but I figured this time if it was switched up into smaller settings, it may be easier to kind of keep track of and to actually be able to kind of come back to and, you know, work your way through your build. So that's why I did it this way. I wanted you guys to be able to actually enjoy the time building and not just be like, where was he at in the video? Because this was a 3-hour-long video, because I did that, and I know that just doesn't work for you guys, and because it doesn't work for me. And so I don't know why I did that in the past. So we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to break these build videos up into multiple videos over several weeks, because people are, you know, it takes time. And a lot of times, if you're like me, you're going to buy stuff little by little as you go, and you're going to buy the kit because that's what's in budget, and you're going to build the kit. And as you're building the kit, it might take you 3 or 4 weeks because you got 5 kids and you need to take care of the kids and do the dishes and do the laundry and clean the house and, you know, go to work and work your tail off for 5 cents an hour, you know, because boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I poop on company time. You know, really enjoyed doing this with you guys. I thought this was an absolutely a fun build. And yeah, there's what the last page looks like. Body clips. At the end of this video here, in just a couple seconds, you're gonna see it being, I'm not sure if I'll do picture format or actually just like a little like tour around video. Might do a tour around video. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. There's a lot more of this to come. We're gonna be building nitro kits, truggies, we're gonna be building all kinds of stuff. If you didn't enjoy this, I'm sorry. Maybe you're already a seasoned racer and you don't need the extra help of what, you know, somebody who is just starting needs. That's fine too. That's why we have the race vlogs. We have, you know, the different reviews of different things, just like with the body, with the wide body versus the narrow body. That's something that you might not notice when you're first starting out, but as a seasoned racer, you're going to notice those things. It's one of those things that I'm trying to do this for everyone as best as possible. And if this helped you, I'm very grateful for that. I love that. That's the whole reason I started this channel, is to do these build tutorials to help people, because there's hardly any build tutorials on the internet of actual, like, work with me through this as we build together. Just like this one, I know I cut it a little short by not doing the rear shocks, but the front and rear are identical except for the shock fluid. Not really anything to keep an eye on. Oh, and the pistons are a slightly different hole size, but just don't open the bags at the same time, you're fine. I'll probably have another video come on with some soldering, or you can look back. I've got like 4 videos with soldering motor wires on and stuff. This one's a little different, so I probably will do a little mini video on soldering up your 8-scale electronics. But our build is officially complete, with the exception of soldering. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel kind of happy. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like with the full cartoon design on it. I made a mistake. I had to take my ESC back out. I forgot about this sensor wire, and I blocked the port for it. We'll address that in next week's video too, with the soldering stuff. It's fine. Everything's fine.